So Andrew and Claire are driving back from South Dakota, and they apologize, but they will watch tomorrow. They are very tired. What? Okay.
I begin with the Heart Sutra in English on page 2. Thus I have heard, at one time the Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of Ultra Peak Mountain, with a great gathering of monks and a great assembly of bodhisattvas. At that time the Blessed One was absorbed in the samadhi of the many aspects of phenomena called profound appearance. At the same time, the Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom, saw the 5 skandhas and the natural emptiness. Then, through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, "How should a son of a lineage trained who wishes to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom?" Thus he spoke, and the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva answered the Venerable Shariputra with these words. Shariputra, those men and women of the lineage who wish to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom should look at it like this. The 5 skandhas should be seen purely in their natural emptiness. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form also is not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, recognition, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, like this, all phenomena are emptiness, and having no characteristics, they are unborn and unceasing. They are not impure or pure. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no recognition, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no phenomenon. There is no quality of sight and so on until no quality of mind, no quality of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance and no exhaustion of ignorance and so on, up to no old age and death, and no exhaustion of old age and death. In the same way, there is no suffering, no origin, no ending, and no path. No wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and abide by means of the profound perfection of wisdom. And since their minds have no obscurations, they have no fear. Transcending falsity, they attain nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times have relied upon the perfection of wisdom, and have become true and complete Buddhas of unsurpassable, perfect, and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the profound perfection of wisdom, the mantra of insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra which calms all suffering should be known as truth, for it is not deceptive. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is proclaimed. Teata om gate gate paragate parasangate bodhi soha. Shariputra, this is how a Bodhisattva Mahasattva should train in the profound perfection of wisdom. And the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and said to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva noble Avalokiteshvara that he had spoken well. Well done, O son of the lineage, it is so. O son of the lineage, since it is just so, the profound perfection of wisdom should be practiced just as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will also rejoice. When the Blessed One has said this, the Venerable Shariputra and noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva and the entire gathering, as well as worldly beings, gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, rejoiced and praised the words of the Blessed One.
shebe katore tawe shonje na rande nangme si pampe gewa kwento sonjo jeba yana mjade jeba mjo jangda mja sada tene tene kase oso tedan na shoyis kasi shozundaro tene chere jadan ta rande nangme si pampe se jada geza sonate geza shala che nuyosu tamata kwasen pewa ane suma tapa pewa tene kasi geza sundan ko jiushu mai ta devi shonkro dama dini to de shoyna rande nangme sepang pes ta tsigurung tsri shoyna rande zade rang zade sosor ko yare wa rans nanda marans nanda das nanda anda da pege na shonju ko se tibare kaji das gre kaji mas gre kaji marans gre kada sosor ko yare rande rans ni sambo chazada rāntū nāngmē sāyate ndribē chik kōkore, nāngmē sāyate sāma gīwē kī lēche nāmi kī ndribē ane dēche tōkar sāyānabō mēgīwē lēche na ane nāmi ndribē ane dūngē yōngore sāyānabō chūyarwa chazāda gīwā jī bū chechen la ane rāngi cheto mūni sāwarwa ndribē de rāngi cheto mūni ane gezate ruyu mare sawar jada namme se de biche rande namme se sambo rani ge geza ruya de ane rang de don dimya tende ge chedo geza ruyu mare pena tombo geza sobe kaine che rangi chedo rani ne na se shea de botan rani tseri bo tsoya tende jigun no jida tsendi yang de jiwa rani tsendi le je dogu tang ya ko ju yuan je da de na ji gi mo bi ge shi wa rani toja de ji mu to ko de ne to ra je na sa da mu to de ne mu to ko da hai ko da me ko da le mu to la mi ko ma se ro ne le ta ba ta ji ko ma se ro je da mu to de ne ni ma ne ane 무도 함이 como 토라제나서 무도 함이 como 토리체도 ane 지게자 소야나 게자루야 내 집안에 되니 그거다 아장게 게대 충충 장로래서 와잖아 랑게 게자도 돈이 랑게 돼 남의 진리가 쳔들이 내나서 놓는다 쳔디 도기다 송체도 저하는 걸 보다 아니 제가 지만 나서 시험이네 정문도 당연히 얘기는 모두 함이 그렇게 나와서 대대지 코로게 세니 대대지 코로 지금 되는 다 시들도 대대지 단디니 대대지 신 대대지 신이 대대지 차비 왕게 아니 게다 로이나 안데 게다 충분한 친구처럼 말해 근데 이제 게자르니 라데나메 디고 아데 충중 산탄주 맞서 빵 거래서 라데나메 세파이세.
So we're still on the verse 15, which talks about the protection of one's good king, or in it says geza in Tibetan, which means the root of virtue. Is the way we protect our geza, or the root of virtue. Where it says to protect what is good by being free from craving, for a result of evolution that benefits yourself. Don't regret it afterward. And after you do it, don't make it publicly known, right? So here what it actually emphasizes on importance of not having attachment, in other words, towards one's protection of one's root of virtue, root virtue, nor one protects one's root virtue just to mere benefit oneself. Rather, one's purpose of protecting this one's root, the root virtue, or the one's good gain, is to benefit other sentient beings. So one again here, and also one should not protect one's virtue just mere aspiration to attain high rebirth in the human realms, Deva, or the Demic realms, and so on. But rather, one's very protection of this virtue or the good gain is to benefit all other sentient beings. In other words, to gain state of liberation and complete enlightenment for the benefit of all other sentient beings. Because if one emphasizes too much on the result of one's practicing one's root virtue, one may cling into this root virtue, cling into the virtuous result that give rise to craving and attachment. And instead of becoming a cause for liberation and enlightenment, it may become a cause for taking a rebirth within cyclic existence, in world states, in the lower existence, and so on. So therefore, it is very important whenever we engage in certain practices, because we are actually aspiring to attain certain result of one's practice. But one should not have attachment towards the result of one's practice. And if one has this attachment towards the result of one's practice, then this will not become a cause for liberations. Rather, it will cause for taking rebirth within cyclic existence. It will not take oneself beyond cyclic existence. It will, in other words, in such way of practicing and having attachment towards one's result of one's practice will actually bind us within this cyclic existence.
Randegi cheto, nami individu nini, geza dua inanda, geza suma inanda, te hajangi geza de, ane tuchumuri eswarwa, tene indu, tene geza tuchumuri, ane tuchewan var bese chewramata, tene tuchumuri, chewjuma, tene randegi nami tene cheto, ane chabar le Kumate Pamres, Chazan, Takalekuna, Toma Gita Rubika in Shenji Cheto Yes, yes, a Tamik Cheto Yes, oh, Kumajachimuches, Gizeti, Gizeti Makayana, Konogi, Maki, Gizechi Chado, Mato, Giza Dujimotan, Telekishego Marpena, she saw the Chanchu was saying that Toma Ninuji, Chuzanji, so gomba inaya tuyurin to tang yanjuk sera to mane bonta jiba inaya ko kono jache chungi rani tbaliya chendreya karsebare rorendo bochidanji tanirando bochi tindage chedana yana modal hame komando bochi endeji tora jena sambe kono tele chunji sezime toni janjuk sera mo ayina to mane ko ayina so the page is Chadada, Chantus Tomani Guaniba, I get a color the Jachetani, Rami Kivichi the Maiba, Sejatamji Cheto, Santa. And then we do Hami Komata Maiba, Tamji Komoto have to the years of it. The David Kono Jajoina, ane geza tuchewa chagre ane idu rangde nami ki malepa chi ane geza jibukuri yasiko.
So as I mentioned earlier, that one should not, think of a result merely to benefit oneself or one's practice. If one has such motivations, and regardless of how long that you may have practiced and how profound that your practice may be, and that will give you the result that you receive out of it will be very minor, or in other words, it's very small. So you will not be able to receive the great result out of one's practice. So similarly, when one is engaging in active practice of accumulating merits, such as practice on Dharma and so on, and one should not have a motivation of benefiting oneself, just only oneself. Rather think of one's very purpose of engaging in such practice is to benefit all other sentient beings. And this is how one can create a cause that gives rise to the state of liberation and state of omniscience. So it, although the motivation, the cultivation of appropriate motivation is something that is very important for practicing Dhamma, because the motivation plays a very critical role in our practice. For instance, if two individuals may engage in the same practice of meditating on bodhicitta, meditating on emptiness, and so on, and the same length of time they may have taken to practice and meditating on bodhicitta and meditating on emptiness. So it is because of the differences of their motivations. When it comes to the result of this practice, it differs based on according to the motivations, and the profundity of one's practice or result really depends upon one's own the individual's motivations. So, the motivation makes a very significant difference in one's practice and one's accumulation of merits. If one engages in the practice of bodhicitta or meditating on emptiness, although such practice is supposed to become a cause for liberation and attainment of omniscience. But if one's motivation is influenced by name, fame, and wealth, and mere achievement of high rebirth, and this practice, how long that you may have practiced, but this will not become a cause for liberation and state of omniscience. So therefore, whenever we engage in the practice, one should have these motivations of benefiting all other sentient beings, aiming towards one's own state of enlightenment, and very purpose of having a genuine aspiration to attain state of enlightenment is to benefit other sentient beings. And this is the indispensable motivations which need to be cultivated by the practitioner.
Tende geza thoma dubi karine, rani tsindi chedo duina, ane chedang geza koron rang chedo ibichani, achang tochunju. Tenya rani tsindi chedo dubai na tsindi chawad dubi kare geza tondo ya. Tena ji chingudo lami yukom 저 지만에 뭐다 라면 고마도 해도 되는지 뭐니 계속 담아 주고 있나야 계속 투중중 뭐 방문들 하다 미 고마지 토요 그래 계속 대가라네 잘어야 내일도다 제 반대도 상담하네 라디오 나면에 뭐니 계속 담아 주고 있는다 담아 뭐 집에 가 있는다 가장 투중주 잘하고 그래 내일도 데려도데 담아 계속 주고 있는 그 타임에 쓰자 담지게 쳐도 다 안내라니 도저히네요. 산지주가 봐. 된다지게 쳐도다. 안내 뭐가 집에 가리네. 제 세자단이 라면 도저 되고 줄인 줄 알아서 도와지니 뭐 도와이나 안내 계산돼. 세자단이 라면 도저 마도 집어도 안내 계산은 마세요. 요즘은 내 앞선도 마세베. 안내 세자 담지게 쳐도 누가 이도가 계산도 하자면 떡친구 퇴친구 잡아야지. What they do, rather name se pumping is car pumping, rather name kill pump as to somebody.
So, if one's practice is mere motivated by aspiration to attain the mundane excellences, then the result will be very, powerless, in other words. In other words, the power of the result will be very limited. So, for instance, that one is seeking, one engages in the practice for the purpose of attaining high rebirth in one's spiritual life, or one has aspiration to have a name and a fame. And this kind of motivation will, though that you are engaging in the practice of Dharma, your result will be very, very limited. The limited result that you may experience due to one's motivations. So it is therefore right from the beginning of one's practice, one should cultivate appropriate motivations. That my very purpose of engaging in the practice is to attain complete state of enlightenment for the benefit of all other sentient beings. And having done one's practice, one should then be followed by the practice of dedications. And the same thing, when you are dedicating your practice or your virtue that you have accumulated through one's practice to dedicate towards the achievement of enlightenment of oneself and that of all other sentient beings. If one is able to do that, then whatever the virtue that one may have accumulated will remain within one's mind stream in a form of potency. So this will, until one gains the state of enlightenment.
That name the Marazo Java Zambo Kalachi, Brutuaina, Muy Jamachu with the Kichumore, Jesoso Kandu Jibikainanda, Shen Jibake, Nibanata, the Europa Jibikainanda, Siji Babu Chulu Jibake Soluainanda, and the Java Zambo said the Java Zambo said the Deje doing charge of Java Zambo Slavu. Java Zambo to be Kalasu, Kono the Jama too much. Java Zambo Tebubala Teni, Naming Tibete, and yes, Jatamje Deji Yuadabata. Rani there, and Mamba Tamji Kong, yes, Jatamji Chedo, Lametajan Toyag, the Dagi Jur, Joashua, the Dagi, Kono Tani, and Java Zambo Tuina, the Devi Javade, and Lepching with teaching which I know.
So our objective should be one's practice, the objective of one's practice should be a state of enlightenment all the time. as a practitioner, even when one is engaging in certain practice of reciting one's daily practices or chanting and so on, one should always, or when one is, helping some destitute beings, or if one is protecting the life of other sentient beings, such as animals and so forth, one should always have this motivation, setting one's uh, goal, which is state of enlightenment. Because the very achievement of enlightenment is not to benefit one's own soul. The very purpose of attainment of enlightenment is to benefit all other sentient beings. So therefore, if one is able to do that, then one can have a result that has a power to become a cause for liberation and state of enlightenment. So, it is therefore when one engages in the practice to accumulate merits, one should dedicate one's merits towards the happiness of all other sentient beings, and achievement of state of enlightenment, that of oneself and all other sentient beings.
자, 다른 말도 너무 더 추천해만 정말이야. 정도서 지켜도 산주서 하니 뭐래 정도지 산지라 정도지 줄에 정도지 어디라 정도지 대쇼래야 아니 senjejido 아치다 senje 정도지 좀 그래 아니 다 지나고 제가 정도 던지에서는 지나고 제가 체험 거래 남벽이 정도 되더니 정도에 되고 산제당 안데 주게 주군jo 고라니다 아니 파베 강자 들려지래 저승도 단에 정도 던지 바나야 아니 대송으로 산주 최다게 되대 타반도 만남지 저스 단도지 강사이 라니 타반도에 강사지 제기나 아니 군조선랑 이바도 저승도 그래서 저단 저승도는 이제 미주 군조선 저승도 그래요 말이 고 줄어서서 정도 되는 문제 한번 보여줘 얘네야 저런 타반되는 얘기지나 어느 군조선은 저승도는 마도 아니 딜레심이 유혈을 저승도 있나 이제 타반도 말했습니다 제가 대주대쇼래는 먼저 아가사 다기 전소지가 천원이 별라베지 산인 두가셔서 신지지어도 저서 다기 전소지가 초남지 있어서 다소소게 지바 땅와라 소베게 계산남 서로 되게 소남 초대 어느 로아스제 탐절을 폐배쳐도 어느 산지 거고 도와줘 스네 고나티제 스제 탐지 폐배쳐도 어느 산지 거고 제기 소용도 하셔서 보다 모두 체리만 좀 말이야 저러서 제기도 고나티데 제기 세세님아 어느 자와서 뭐 도움이 그랬대 계산에 좀 참고 그래
So it is therefore right from the beginning of our practice, whether one is receiving teachings or whether one is engaging in the practice prior to receiving teachings or prior to engaging in the practice, actual practice, one's practices begin with taking refuge in two jewels and generation of bodhicitta, right? As we recited earlier, just before our teachings, our discussions on Dharma, we recited the refuge formula that I took refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I'm enlightened by the practice of generosity and so forth. May I get state of enlightenment. So the first two lines is the line for taking refuge in three jewels, and the last two lines is line for taking generation bodhicitta. So the first two lines is taking refuge in three jewels. The practice of taking refuge in three jewels is the practice that distinguish one from non-Buddhist practitioners, and the demarcation that draws the line, or whether or not one is practicing of Buddha Dharma or not, is the individual who is taking refuge in three jewels, who knows how to take refuge in three jewels. And and so it is therefore in the 70 stanzas of refuge, where it's stated that Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha is the protection or the uh, object of refuge, individual who aspire to attain liberation in state of enlightenment. Of course, because there are many ways in which that we take in refuge, depending on what kind of belief system that one may have. You know, whether Buddhists or non-Buddhists, they have their own way of taking refuge. But if one aspires to attain liberation and state of enlightenment, Buddha Dhamma, taking refuge in Buddha Dhamma and Sangha, and understanding object of those three refuge, and knowing who those object of refuge are, what those object of refuge are, why we're taking refuge in those three jewels. Understanding of this is very, very important. So it is therefore, and the next two lines, what it states in the refuge formula, the last two lines, it says, by the practice of generosity and so forth, which within the so forth, it encapsulates the other practice of morality, patience, and so on. So all this are to benefit. It's clearly mentioned that one's very practice of generosity and so forth to attain state of enlightenment for the benefit of all other sentient beings. So therefore, one should, if one is able to have such a motivations when one engages in the practice, then one's practice will become so powerful, and then also the merits that we have accumulated by means of such motivations will become powerful as well.
And then you do that in the give a good song on Jules. Jana Toma, get a group in a Jamachuma, Chiatan, and so Sazibe Gezatina, and you can't sort the ducky, and Moi Chimbochi, Manguji Pado, and Suma, Tana, Sijatan, Sanjuk Saran, Guyacho, Rani Sanju Komo, Mazoji Pado, and a young morning, or the day Pado, and Gezate Kaduina, and Sumbre.
So it is therefore one should know how to protect one's virtue or one's merits that one have accumulated by means of one's practice. So one's virtue or the merits, that accumulation of merits, must be protected and present within one's mind until one gains the state of enlightenment. This can happen only if one is able to know how to protect this merits or the virtue.
제가 뭐요 예스제 담지의 체도 안에 라니 산주 거만 뭐도 전혀 그런 데데 지금 사백 게다데 안 뒤까지 이나야 어느 컨트롤러서 버튼다게 먼저 배 메시지는 야고 송고래서.
So all those merits or the virtue that one may have merits that one may have accumulated by one's practice is to be protected, not just protected and to keep alive, not letting this merits undergo degenerations due to one's negative thoughts such as anger and so forth.
근데 저도 아까는 시험에 저 주제시면 당기자 상고지 도이네다 대야 야보지 마송한테네 컨트롤러서 되는 좀 많이 하자 방법으로 내도 컨트롤만 좀 되군도 소야다 안에 돈도 비실을 그때서 돈이 되면 도잖아 그는 뭐게 백이 좀 그래.
So one takes the time and put in a lot of effort to practice and accumulate merits. And if one doesn't know how to protect those one's merits by one's practice, and letting one's virtue or the merits undergo degenerations by this anger or hatred, then that is really a tragic.
nya ngewa konde soma njur tendo gache ta deni ma tsangan ni bade sore tsangan som bade njoba yan me jate chatre njoba yan me jate cha da so so tenda ki thone geza ya bo de ju yo ina en de so so du de be geza sore njoba che jo ma res njo se che jo ma res pe na mo so kar se ore shadon ro che yo be kare ni mo to yi tsang when shadon che yo be kare ana 나사기 니돈 뜻을 주받게 오도와 주받게나 대바 다고도와 어떤아이 소소기 주 세미기 게자들이야 주받게와냐 게자들마 냥로고 제가 말 제가 통한 매번 단다바 소소기 제즈미기 대바 뜻을 뭐니 주받게오도 삼보 두콘도 수만다고 주받게오도 삼보 파티바다 다고도와 텔레도데 소소기 저토면 반다바 사스미 게자토리아 주바지와니 하게자데 냥로 테네이데 주바야나 미자데르스 소소기 나사스미 소나바 게자토리아 주바지요마 야라지고레스.
So don't regret it afterwards. That means, rather one should rejoice in it. That means towards one's own merits. Whatever the merits that one may have accumulated, one should not regret it. If one regrets one's practice of Dharma or the one's accumulated some merits, and then this will again, become a downfall. So therefore, one should have a regret towards one's own negativities, the negative deeds that one may have done. As you may be familiar with this application of four antidotes, four forceful antidotes or four powerful antidotes when we do the practice of purifications. Because it's clearly mentioned in the practice of purifications or the practice of confession, where it talks about importance of applying four forceful or the powerful antidotes to purify all these negativities that one had done in the past. So therefore, what it meant by don't regret it afterward is one should not have a regret regarding one's own virtue or virtues that one may have done in the past, but rather one should have a regret towards whatever the negative deeds one have done in the past.
rangi sabe geza ta ani yege sabe geza ta de juba jewaina ta rangi sabe geza de juba jewaina rangi sabe geza nyangro ya ta shenje sabe geza de juba jewaina ani rani le ya ranju gi geza nyangro ya ta tere do sore ani rangi ngame gi ya lenge basa saya tena yongoro jaza rangi sabe geza le yaranji ya ta yenje sabe geza le yaranji jewaina and the ranking Masa gets a coin on the Peata. She hangs up against the Yaranjoana, and the Paruba gets a pure Totan Tamada Chazan, Kanda running in that pure Todia. But the rest of the Sambo, and the Jesus and Kanda, Ranju gets a coin on the Peata, Yang gets a running Toyaki, Cheda, the Dagita, Karsaway, Gubay Nature.
So instead of having a regret towards the virtuous deed of oneself and that of other sentient beings, one should take great rejoice in the virtue that is accumulated by oneself and that of other sentient beings. Rejoicing the practice of rejoicing of the virtue of others and self. One's own virtue and self, or virtue that is virtue of other sentient beings. It enables one to accumulate a tremendous amount of merits. Because when one sees someone who's engaging in a virtuous deed, someone who's engaging in the positive deeds or wholesome deeds, one should have a great rejoice in their virtues or their wholesome deeds. With such, although that one is not engaging in such wholesome deed at the moment, that when you see someone who is actually engaging in wholesome deeds, one should rejoice in that. By rejoicing that, one will be able to accumulate a tremendous amount of merits.
너 드네 지단이 지금 아는데 손도 아 매가 주는 로지 소들을 깨라 지세요로 쳐서 저도 끌리시다 매대시다 제목이 더네 아니 겨울을 친구지 싸우고 있나 아니 지세요로 지야 되다 야슈 이해송으로 제가 당도 문에 나는 여기 제신이나 지세를 주고 쳐서 이거 아무서도 기세 중중지 싸 들려 지세요로 지게 대고만이 건데 야 지세를 지니 말 기세에 대해 지세를 지 대기세 지사 대양 뭐지 야 대양 기세 지지 들려야지 근데 자자 지니 벤이 센다니 지니한테 기세 자자 사대지래도 저서 그 제신의 지면이나 지세를 자자 진대나 렉사를 진도 하대
So it's therefore, the Lama Tsongkhapa has stated that by little effort, there's a way of accumulating tremendous amount of meters by little effort, which is the rejoicing the virtue of others. Because if one rejoices the virtues of others, and if one knows how to rejoice, the the correct way of rejoicing the virtues, others' virtue, one accumulates tremendous amount of merits, because one will come across with the many beings who are actually engaging in the wholesome deeds, engaging in virtuous deeds and so forth. And as soon as one sees that, instead of having criticizing or having sense of competitiveness with that individual, one should rejoice. This will benefit us and enables us to accumulate tremendous amount of merits.
이제 봐야는 밑에 된다고 했지. 다 지바른 주장 담아져 세다. 지바른 주장 담아져. 다 소소기 기와 럭치문에 들어와 있나. 근데 시에를 시에게 말해서 그래. 지바른 주장 담아져. 제가 라닝 기사에 싸웠는데 뭐지 제인다 하고 만들어 가지고 기와 들어와 있나. 지 제샤이다 니 제샤이다스네. 하고 땅이 뭐라고 지다. 아니야 가르쳐 그래. 된다기 공로이면 말이야. 소소 기와지 보는데 시에는 문들이 부셔이 근데 지 제신이 제샤이. 근데 시에고 말했어. 소소 같은 여러한테 소소도 기와고 어떻게 된다고 말. 소소 카운트한테 아니 와슈와이 차대와이 자주세 공부에 돈이 공부에 있네. 아니 지금 금액이다. 그거 어디야? 시초로 맞다. 금액이 들어갔어. 아니 연락을 해요 말이야. 소소분이 가서 뭐이 야고 중소서 번호 잡아 줬던 아니 여러 가지 기침 거래서
So then the last line when it's here we read, and after you do it, don't make it publicly known, which is very important. Because sometimes we have a tendency of making a publicity of one's practice. This is the kind of practice I'm doing. This is kind of teaching this I may have received. That is again, it's not appropriate because, especially having a motivation of, expectation of a praise from other beings, other persons, or to make oneself, to show the greatness of one's own practice and so on. It's not really good at all because it's really this such motivation is something that really coming into being due to our own pride and so on. So therefore, one should not make this publicly is better, and one should always keep in oneself. And one should not just say, "Well, I have received this empowerment, and I have done some, approximation or some kind of retreat regarding certain deities and so on and so forth." And one should not say that, "Well, I have been meditating on bodhicitta, emptiness, and so on." Whatever the practice one may have done, and one should know the result of this practice. So therefore, one should rejoice one's own practice, and one should not really make this publicly known. In other words, advertise one's practice and so on.
제사랑 계산을 주어이나 아니 이제부터 다와이나 지지나 바로 보도 열한지네 어 자상보지 주세 지지나요 타던 데서 나오기 먹여야 용세 가다장 양담을 소소소 아니 이거도 안소소 열한지 가다 소소게 사스게 계산데 아니 touching보지 요약은 배세나 기침을
So because if one let others know about one's practice, we don't know what kind of idea they might, or the other individual might have. It may be, become a cause for having jealousy towards oneself, or sense of competitiveness, or maybe, denigrate one's own practice and so forth. So it will not benefit ourselves and that of other sentient beings. So therefore, one should keep one's practice within oneself and recognize one's practice and rejoice in one's practice and think that how fortunate it is for me to be able to engage in such practice.
제발 주여 드라마체 된다고지. 다들이마 자이츠잖아. 녀당 고디 직자신 사제. 녀당 고디 직자신. 녀당 고디에서 뭐 녀코세야 되나. 녀코녀라세야. 녀당 고디에. 제가 소소 공원에 쉬어나 이게 아니 게다 럽치면서 그러다 게다 덮치고 게다 럽치고 되는지 제가 되니 아니 녀코라 잡아는 거다. redan nyekola chabata. Otele chewaina, njikja shinga sambo, nyana kode tenale chawaina, anu soso geta de, anu manjing rogores. Chasa geta nyang rogore, geta tegi dribu, anu dusore ya, meyale, anu jangsun batenda, yungore tenda indu, nyebadang kode tenale ya, machawa chegores.
So then the verse 16 here is the first line, beware of money and prestige.
Which verse?
The verse 16, beware of money and prestige. So here, when one engages in the practice, engages into wholesome deeds, so the virtuous deed, one should not have motivation of having name, wealth, it's money, but wealth and prestige. So one should always examine one's motivations. And if one engages in a virtuous deed with such motivations, then instead of accumulating merits, even the merits that you may have accumulated in the past will undergo degradation. It degenerates or it deteriorates one's merits that one has accumulated in the past. And then also, even if the merits that you may have within one's mind or within one's one's state of beings, it will take a longer time to ripen the result of of this virtue. So therefore, examining or investigating one's motivation is crucial in when one engages in the practice of Dharma.
Nyedam kudi is somebody near Nyesa, Nebatoba. The course had the Shagaran running Kondo Korova. Rangan never Juna Asano. My Yagi Kondo Korajana Asa. And then never Junas me cha. Kodi Junas me cha. Chazan, and never the Kodi Jumikade, and Shanga Kondo Kuyamikade, they are running Najaje, Kumbaje. Or the day into Kudi is that the Jedajado, Jazajunse, never the Kodilla Charles Moina, and in Julius, Jugajuna, Sozogi, and the Geta Tuchimo, Roja de, and the Mavasori, then Jupajere, de Jusmoina, Geta Dig intributed, and Tutor Mimua, and Jansen Bogores, Lotus.
If one have with the motivations of having, wealth and prestige, name and fame, one engages in the practice. This will destroy our virtue, the virtue that one may have accumulated, preserve one's merits that one may have accumulated in the past. So, so then, if one has such motivations towards how the people can look at how the people can look at me. If you have certain motivation of that, wanted to show of yourself that you are something different than other person, or wanted to be more knowledgeable than other person, and this is really, drive yourself towards increment of one's own attachment. And this is something that one really need to shun, because it should be shunned. It's not, appropriate or not, good foundation for one's practice of Dharma.
Today, Nibata Koderea, and then Machava Jagores.
Should
Then
not
I
have
get
attachment towards, wealth, prestige, and so on.
then I get, and then Nibata Kode Jumikare, and then Kimba Jajuma, Kimba de Pangres, Kimba Tato Pangas.
Even when someone respect oneself, respect and someone praise oneself, one should always be aware, be aware that, and also or in other words, be very careful that one is not generating pride.
Kimba said, my dear, Javan, Shang running Shivichi has a Kondoku Bigla, and Marashi Jimbari, and so they are Kimbagia, Kani, Pobat, over there.
We as ordinary beings, we really have this tendency. When someone praises to oneself, and one always think that one really take it very seriously and thinking that one is something else, someone who is better than somebody, and that's the pride actually. And this is something that we need to recognize and make sure that when someone praises and when someone respects oneself, one should be, maintain one's humbleness even more.
제가 니바다 그때 때 자주에 말해서 사고 소설 니바다 그때를 마찬가지 온기 소설 니바다 그때 좋아하는 데서 가가래. 제가 소설은 그 사람 마찬가지 마예베지 그래서.
So when people praise oneself, or people become a devoted to oneself, and praise oneself, then as long as one is being careful and not being attached towards this kind of praise and devotion from others and so on, then that's fine.
다들이 김바다도 방아지 들어가서 말이지. 다 장주 선바 대자 형제들. 저 드네들 다 장주 선바 대자게 아 장주 선바야. 아니 대바지요 그래서 그바지요 그래서.
So then it says always avoid pride. A bodhisattva should be confident.
장주 선바라 그바다 대바지요나 소소를 게다 토그래서.
So there it says one should have a genuine faith towards bodhisattvas, and if one has the faith that is genuine and authentic, then one accumulates merits and increases one's root virtue.
데레 장주 선바를 뭐냐 코로지야다 맞아던 데서들 계속이나 소소하네 대바지 무사르래서.
If one generates anger, jealousy, sense of competitiveness towards bodhisattvas, then that really causes, great deal of negative karma that one will be experience in one's future life.
제가 주는 수만나지 까바토나 사베 가다 까바토나 사베 계세요. 콘로 끼지 좀 해야 돼. 자리서 많이 배직 자리서 받다가 아네 콘로지와이나 아네 까바몬 보기 계산 좀 그래서.
It is therefore we find in the guide to the Bodhisattva's way of life where it's stated that just one moment of a generation of hatred or anger destroys the accumulation of merits that accumulated for 1,000 eons. Well, that it actually talks about the generation, the one moment of generation of anger towards bodhisattvas.
데레 장주 선바야 그바다 대바지와이나 아네 계산 아닌 토그래서.
One gains a great benefits out of engaging, out of having a devotion and a praise to the bodhisattva.
저 장주 선바생인데 장주 세라들 제니 아니 마냐비 강사들에 장주 선바스라고.
So bodhisattvas means someone who actually cultivated bodhicitta and which has not undergone degenerations.
다 장주 선바 대자시. 최대인이 방을 자세야 돼. 다 최대인이 방을 자세. 담배 춤 방아서 돼. 담배 춤 방아. 담배 취해서 가래이나 마이나서 근데 이니 제모론 봐. 아니 담배 춤 방아. 기초를
Then that's the last line. It says, and let go of any dislike for dharma. That means one should not abandon sublime dharma.
담배 지와이나 은소소의 계산에 만나와지네 야고지 송도에 가지고 보여요.
With such practice and adoption of such attitude, will then be able to protect one's good gain or the virtue or the merits.
다른 분들 좋아하는 거죠.
Clock is wrong.
Questions?
Yeah, well,
좋아하는.
it's 7 o'clock right now. We have a lot of time. Okay.
Yeah, what?
It is just 7 o'clock right now.
That clock is wrong.
Oh, yeah, daylight savings. Good, then we get extra merit.
무슨 좋아하는?
Yeah. Any questions?
Oh, so confidence, I'm gonna kind of go back into some other things, okay? So, to have confidence, I was always taught that when people blah, 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 you can't fix stupid.
Mm-hmm.
So you should have the confidence just to listen to and if you can add anything positive. But if you only have an argument, just let it go. Would that be you don't have to stand up for Dharma as long as you're confident in it. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Especially where people have the Buddhism, Christianity conflict rather than together. You know? So I guess my question is, how, at what, like, let's see, I travel in a lot of circles, and they say, oh, you're Buddhist. And I say, well, if they come at me with that, I say, I study Buddhist philosophy, okay? To soften, if you want to, you study Christian philosophy, I study Buddhist philosophy, it doesn't make me any more of a
Can you speak
Buddhist.
up a bit?
What?
My hearing's not so good.
Oh, well, my question is that when people, you should be confident in your Buddhism so that you don't have to have the anger or feel attacked or any of that. Like, you're not gonna fix stupid, right? So just let it go.
So I still not understanding what the question is.
Yeah, that's what.
Oh, the question is, in this, it's saying you should have confidence, not pride. And I'm saying, some people would say that you should speak up when people talk. And I say you should be confident, and if it is valid, then engage in it, but if not, what's the point? Like, as far as saying, oh, I study Buddhist, I'm Buddhist or whatever, it's for you, it's not for other people.
So it's not really a question, it's more of a statement.
What?
It's more of a comment than a question.
Yeah.
No, the question is, there's a deep question here. At what point do you try to fix stupid? At what point is it insulted? Or is there an insulted thing? Should you just let it roll off your shoulders? Lots of people think Buddhism is incarnate, they have the wrong idea. Because they're comparing it to heaven and hell. Reincarnation and heaven and hell are two different universes.
So the question is about when should you
Engage.
about your beliefs, and when should you refrain?
Or just let go of another.
Yeah, like, is it okay? I guess my question is, if somebody's really aggressive or stupid or baiting you, I just, I don't feel, and some people say, oh, you should stick up for Buddhism. And it's like, I just did by not arguing about it, by being confident in what I believe.
But again, the question is at what point do you need to engage?
To disengage.
To disengage.
Right, that's the important. Thank you. Sorry. We'll get there.
이제 더 대버스 때문에 왔던지 전주성도 대버치 버렸지. 그래서 지금 컨디널이야 대버런데 딱딱이 그게 가서래. 그걸 딱딱이 뭐 대버스 그거는 컨피던스를 가는 지금 남자는 이렇게 없어. 이렇게 보다 너의 장마지 없어. 그래서 뭐라 이렇게부터 대변이 되어도 개발을 받아.
예.
네, 진짜 지난 부지 이렇게 받아. 너의 장마이 계약이 있다. 결제 있다도 봐. 진짜 지난 거 좋은 데려셔. 근데 네 현직에 소소야 나와 많이 왜 가서 현직 때문에 일도 없이 그 남발에 남배 더 그 나와의 누이 나 간데서 정말 나베 떠를 전기지 떠를 장고서 많이 받지 떠를이야 양리지 지인시 대시 겨고에 걔한테 지켜 걔는 팬도 여러지 그렇지 요래서 리치려야 그 나와생인데 그치 저 디자인으로 왔다 그러 되게 나와생인데 지 그래서 그 토하미인데 지 겨와시를 생겨서다 they can do the same today. Tamen na so shi wo se lam de ki de chin be na ni a de pa jo so se to ji ji din yan do a nge de de se de se ke ra ma ja ji ku ta ra ku ba xia xia ne ya be de so la shi ta din yan ka so da ku ji pen do da pen do ni xia ke ne yong de da ni de ra nian de这个钱也给了嘛，钱也给了噻，他这个人三年的那边的中人那看他，或者三家收入比没收入其他就对外收入比来下，
저 남부 이다 미스 저 남이다 달래데 제단 들어와
哦，这就
세지 제네야 그래
哦，但是主要的这些结果了吧，这些钱，主要的那么的主要的那一面的，他看他的这些给嘛结果到了，但他下下呢，你也没完事了，你这这个千万的你不会苹果了吧？对呢。
그래 그거 저한테 내 나중에 하지라
나,
저한테 내 자리냐 바로 그 코로나니 가슴보다도 더 좋았다고 했는데 한지 밖에 자자진이 좋았다고 했는데 소설문이 그 문제잖아데 파쇼 문이 더 좋았다고 이거 하는지 한대로 되셔야지는 되더라.
so instead of disengaging, you should engage.
You should engage.
Yeah, engage. When someone asks you, someone comes and says you're Buddhist and Buddhist said this and that, or reincarnation and so on and so forth, then you should explain it to him.
Okay.
Whether this is good for, but you should have a good intention.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
최근에 바로 보고 난 게, 자자지구 여인의 지지는 남북 내수 그런 양반이 마도니 자자지니 하다가 스트레스. 한때가 소소군이 라도나다고 고타니까 디제티 제기지가 좀 자자기나 최근에 그런 상황이 좀 알아서
With engaging with such dialogue with those individuals may benefit them without of intention.
Well, when you're talking about it, it's like you could invite them in rather than sometimes maybe you should make it like I study, and if you want to know more, you could come and study. You can make it welcoming. You could turn it.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah. Just sometimes.
잠시만요. 당 알았는데 들었는데 장을 지휘에 계산 인제나 신뢰되는 먼저 잘 쉬어라면 들어봤어.
그리고
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
That's good.
Yeah. Then you kind of parlay off all the negative.
That's good. Isn't it?
Just act stupid. Yeah, you come. Me act stupid. That's easy. Sometimes not an act.
That's good.
그다음 저런 사람들은 저래 비거래야 남바승이 때려 남비 디시티비 그래 남비 추다 남비 따르다 남비 세르스니 정말 무시게 손대 거래 제상 남바승이 바자 좀 되게 저 돼서 손도 되게 저 되게 좀 남비 추냐 저 남비 따르는 데다 남비 세르는 데다 저 정말 되게 좋네요 보여요.
It is very beneficial when someone asks about Buddhism. It is very beneficial to give them a briefing of the Buddhist science, Buddhist philosophy, and then Buddhist spiritual practice or the Dharma practice.
Mm-hmm.
So those are three different categories that categorized. His Holiness always, talks about those three different categories.
Okay.
So by having a general understanding of those three categories and briefing those three general categories of the Buddhist, teachings would be very beneficial for others.
Okay. Thank you.
저단 당고도 나를 남부 그런 이셔졌지 나주 손대가 천왕을 껴내는 제가 했어. 저 남부 이미 주제 가는 구조선은 단 가서 군조소 자네들 킨 랭귀지 하는 거다. 군조소는 인터넷 켜서 로그에서 하는 거. 대략적인 나빠샤가 때 남이 취업해지진 또 남이 취업한 비지진 시작했어.
So when talking about the Buddha Dharma and to become the practice of Buddha Dharma, the practitioner of Buddha Dharma is to someone who takes refuge in rituals, right? Someone who takes refuge in rituals from the depth of their heart who will become actual Buddhist practitioner. So this belongs to the category of Buddhist spirituality, or Buddhist practice,
Okay.
Dharma practice, in other words. Yeah.
자들이마 지 대바 주다 말로 라면 주다 말로 가다라제 들이 주다 말로 따지 라마지 다여다 메라서 받는데 지 주다서 다와다는 희용도 남이 따르고 거 희용을했어.
Then, when it comes to the explanation of whether things exist truly or not, whether there's true existence or not, whether there's inherent existence or not, whether there is existence of autonomous existence or the substantial existence or not, when it comes to these questions, then we're not that individual, not necessarily be someone who's taking refuge in rituals, but we're merely talking about the Buddhist philosophy.
The philosophy.
Yeah.
And in my world, that's the most successful conversation. Don't get into myth or
Right. The way it is. That it's also did tell you about the what I gave you.
네 demba yiraso betene yingbe ne tena bawo sambo ene kada ju kunju demba tene de dunga demba yano soba junaji demba tene de ko demba jara soba da che dunga kwar juru dan ene kwar da be ba so na ge to chini hiyo de sambo an nambe tsiri shingbe ne tena bawo sambo ane nambe tsiri hiyo.
When it talks about the basis of the Buddhist teachings, such as Four Noble Truths, and how suffering coming into beings, and the suffering coming into being from its own the origin of all, and how the suffering can be eliminated by reversing reversing one's way of doing things in that. And when it comes to this, the teachings of the basis of the Four Noble Truths, then such teaching belongs to the category of Buddhist science.
Okay.
제가 대박이라서 봤을 때 돈이 영입이 되더라고. 대나시기 근데 따르고 나야 돼 아버지. 자와이나 아니 저런 야고지 모르겠어.
So if one lays the foundation upon the understanding of the basis of Four Noble Truths, by having such understanding will enable one to take further towards understanding of Buddhist philosophy, which will then take oneself further to take refuge in three jewels. If one is able to go through this way, then it is one will really become one's practice, or to one's confidence is become so solid, and it become unbreakable.
Becoming, when you say unbreakable, becoming that your
genuine faith, in other
your
words.
faith
Yeah.
can't be wavered.
Yeah.
And that no argument can invade your faith and cause you to question.
That's true. That's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so at that point, it would be permanentized. Well, at the point where you speak like that, you have changed. You're permanent. You're permanently changed. It's not like you can go, oh well, today I'm going to be a Buddhist and tomorrow I'll be a whatever. I think if you're true to
That's true.
to the teaching, Sometimes it haunts you because sometimes the bad mic comes back out, and then the Buddhist teacher I hear in my thing. And so, that's why I'm saying permanently, there's a lot of arguments that have been put into my heart by teachers where I didn't grow up that way, but I act that way now because of respect for the Dharma and the people, I think. I don't know. I think we all have those. I know I did. I was mischievous. I was not a
저도 된다고
sorry.
저도 된다. 그래서 대바다 되게 강사 시행지 영화 때제 수수 강다지 대바마 중토야다. 더게 강다 대바지 템부 쉬우지. 그럼 세트에 대바 따고 내야지 때 이제 대바 템부 쉬우 차서 와서야 힘들. 시내술 간에 따르지 지내 하고 따르하고에 돈에 아니 수소 지 고려에 대화 체제는 군주성 교수도 세워는 대화들 고백 시수단처럼 봐. 그래서 고백 시원 때문에 심정 들었어요.
네. 다 대바되는 것도 가능성 원래 어느 대변지나 어느 주의지나 세야지. 야나 모델이 대바다. 아니 가서 신이 대바세야 되는 용도와 저다다 거의 증의는 대라 전에 소요와 대소소 야고지시. 근데 따로 그나게 야고지시 와이나 아니 좀 된데 상기가 된 거네 전에 재미죠. 로메 바지. 레샤산 비징이 받는 신이 대바다. 근데 용도 유사해 바지. 저다 재미죠. 대다 신이 대바던 주어줘요 말고. 어떤데?
So when it comes to the faith, there are faith that is the faith based on belief, and then there's another faith based on reasonings. So there are reasoning, rationale, based on rationale. Okay. So and then of course the blind faith, which is very shaky faith, the blind faith, in other words. So as we mentioned earlier, that if one's faith is generated based on understanding the basis of Four Noble Truths, which talks about the Buddhist science, and it gives you the explanation of the Buddhist science. This will then further one's understanding of the Buddhist philosophy that lays the foundation for one to take reflection schedules, so that when you have a proper understanding of the basis philosophy, then it is with such understanding one's faith towards Buddha, who actually teaches those teachings, who have given such teachings, you will be marveled by that. One will be, very, become so
enamored.
Confident.
I should say this is confident, or one may have, one may find such a, the teachings that are given are so valid, and that someone who give the valid teachings is a valid teacher.
So you have enough knowledge.
So you have all this knowledge, then you will have a, genuine faith towards Buddha. If one have understanding of basis philosophy, and then someone who taught the basis in philosophy, you will be admired. The admiration to the Buddha will be extraordinary, in other words. Because he was the one who taught this.
Right. Okay, thank you.
제가 산지의 신 대바 제고나 산지의 숨의 양으로 로를 제거해.
So faith based on understanding. faith based on understanding of Dharma should be, it come, should, is the most, authentic faith. But faith based on understanding, to become one's faith based on understanding, one should study the teachings of the Dharma.
Right. So the understanding gives you the faith.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Okay.
슈가도 무슨데 상대되니 마시나 르는 넘버 르는 넘버 존지나 페벨로 존주와데 ndeshele bo tsubata zemenu je pabando jedaroto sankina neji shushi jimuju tada sanjin nyoko ya nyamu kana jimuju shi
So next session we will try to complete these two verses, verse 17 and verse 18.
Okay.
That the enjoyment of the purified body is healthy for embodied beings, just like well-prepared boiled rice without husk powder. And just as when grain is covered by grass, it becomes diseased and does not grow. In the same way, the sprout of Buddhahood doesn't grow if it is covered by the reactive emotions. So we will go through that in our next.
Great. So there's sugar, there's treats later on. I brought some macaroons and some scones, but there's sugar in it. So I don't know if you guys are, grab some on your way out. Didn't we used to have like tea afterwards?
Should we say the dedication prayers? Beginning on page 23 and 24. Approve the official wishes on page 20.
This is the